Chapter 27, the 9th plague. Exodus chapter 10, verses 21 to 29. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days, but all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. And Pharaoh called unto Moses and said, Go ye, serve the Lord, only let your flocks and your herds be stayed, let your little ones also go with you. And Moses said, Thou must give us also sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto the Lord our God. Our cattle also shall go with us, there shall not an hoof be left behind, for thereof must we take to serve the Lord our God, and we know not with what we must serve the Lord until we come thither. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. And Pharaoh said unto him, Get thee from me, take heed to thyself, see my face no more, for in that day thou seest my face, thou shalt die. And Moses said, Thou hast spoken well, I will see thy face again no more. Exodus chapter 10, verses 21 to 29. The 9th plague is darkness. In verse 22, it is called a thick darkness. The word translated as thick means gloom or dark, so that the darkness was one of a special intensity. We are told that it was even darkness which may be felt. Verse 21. Since this plague occurred at a time when the weather was hot, the heat and darkness added up to an intensely difficult time. The darkness was limited to Egypt. Goshen was not affected. We are not told how the darkness came about. More than a few scholars have said that it was probably a very severe sandstorm, but there is nothing here to suggest that. In fact, the absence of any mention of a great windstorm and sand militates against that belief. All we are told is that it was an act of God. Men are determined to convert this plague and others into acts of, quote, nature, end quote. There is a reason for this. Acts of nature are potentially understandable and controllable by man, whereas acts of God are not. Acts of God point to a causality governing man and ungovernable by man. Acts of, quote, nature, end quote, however, are potentially governable by man. The concept of nature is anthropomorphic and posits an entity which, however unthinking, is able to evolve the complex and intricate world of creation. Man, as the high point of this world of nature, is now ready to determine the evolution of things. For this reason, the mythology of nature is both popular and unquestioned. It means here that the darkness was not from God, but from nature, and with this we cannot agree. Pharaoh still wanted to bargain with God. Whereas God demands unconditional surrender, man wants to be able to control God. Pharaoh's condition now was that all the flocks and herds of Israel remain in Egypt as hostages. Verse 24. After the loss of Egypt's herds, the seizure of Israel's livestock would have been a major asset to Egypt. If Israel left to offer sacrifices in the wilderness, Egypt could then seize all their animals and recoup some of their losses. With this Moses could not agree. Verses 24 and 25. The words then exchanged in anger indicated on Pharaoh's part a threat to murder Moses if he again appeared before him. Verse 28. Moses in return said that he was finished with Pharaoh. Verse 29. In spite of this, the two men and Aaron did meet twice more. chapter 11, verse 8, chapter 12, verses 31 and 32. Egypt is not normally a cloudy land. It is a land of sun and light, so that darkness was a particular affront to Egypt and its faith. This plague is referred to in Psalm 105, verse 28. It was an affront to Ra, their sun god, and the Egyptian adoration of the dependability of nature. Now we are told it was so dark they could not see one another, nor work, transact business, or move out of their houses. Verse 23. This continued for 3 full days. Pharaoh, the human embodiment of Ra, the sun god, was in as much darkness as the rest of Egypt. His impotence in the face of God was being underscored. Calvin, in describing the stubbornness of Pharaoh, wrote that Pharaoh prepares himself for every extremity rather than simply to obey God. This is a particularly telling comment. In the 1980s, with respect to AIDS, the one intolerable answer to the question, why AIDS, is to see it as God's judgment. John often had the right answer to the cynical question, do you believe that AIDS is God's judgment? His answer was, do you think it is God's blessing? Men prefer every extremity and every answer rather than simply to obey God. Chadwick wrote, in the apocryphal Book of Wisdom, there is a remarkable study of this plague, regarded as a retribution in kind. It avenges the oppression of Israel. For when unrighteous men thought to oppress the holy nation, they being shut up in their houses, the prisoners of darkness and fettered with the bonds of a long night, lay exiled from the eternal providence. 17, verse 2. It expresses in the physical realm their spiritual misery. For while they supposed to lie hidden their secret sins, they were scattered under a thick veil of forgetfulness. Verse 3. It retorted on them the illusions of their sorcerers. As for the illusions of art magic, they were put down, for they that promised to drive away terrors and troubles from a sick soul were sick themselves of fear, worthy to be laughed at. Verses 7 and 8. In another place, the Egyptians are declared to be worse than the men of Sodom, because they brought into bondage friends and not strangers, and grievously afflicted those whom they had received with feasting. Therefore, even with blindness were these stricken, as those were at the doors of the righteous man. Chapter 19, verses 14 to 17. And we may well believe that the long nights was haunted with special terrors, if we add this wise explanation. For wickedness, condemned by her own witness, is very timorous, and being pressed by conscience, always forecasteth grievous things. For, and this is a sentence of transcendent merit, fear is nothing else than a betrayal of the succours that reason offereth. 17, verses 11 and 12. Therefore, it is concluded that their own hearts were their worst tormentors, alarmed by whistling winds, or melodious song of birds, or pleasing fall of waters. For the whole world shined with a clear light, and none were hindered in their labour. Over them only was spread a heavy night, an image of that darkness which should afterward receive them. Yet were they unto themselves more grievous than the darkness. Verses 20 and 21. We should also remember that for men in antiquity, darkness was a common symbol of chaos. While their rationalism had different presuppositions than that of modern man, it was similar in seeing the necessity of rational control and understanding. The Egyptians were familiar with sandstorms and eclipses. Such things constituted a part of the known and rational world. An inexplicable darkness for 3 days and nights meant that the unknown and the non-rational was at work, and for Egyptians this meant the triumph of chaos. The plagues had reduced Egypt economically, and now total darkness was added to the chaotic state of Egypt. Work was now impossible. Chaos was triumphing. In view of this, Pharaoh's threat to kill Moses is of particular importance. Pharaoh knew that Egypt was in chaos and facing death. In fact, Pharaoh was a dead man as far as his status was concerned. He still had power, but was discredited in the eyes of Israel and Egypt. In effect, Pharaoh said, "If you return to announce another judgment, you shall die." His was an urge to mass destruction. In this instance, darkness does not precede dawn, nor a renewal, but death. The 10th plague made clear that the return of sunlight did not end Egypt's real darkness.